Let us begin by stating the obvious. Humans love awarding themselves trophies they designed. Smartest species on Earth, that label was made by humans, for humans. The moment they discovered they could use fire and stack rocks into pyramids, they were ready to pat themselves on the back. But intelligence isn't about building cities or launching satellites. What if intelligence was about sustainability, cooperation, or not actively destroying the only habitable planet you have? From our vantage point in Andromeda, it's like watching someone set their house on fire and call it modern art. You measure intelligence by IQ scores and academic degrees, but you rarely stop to question if the smartest species should feel so lost. Still, we must admit, your capacity for language, problem solving, and abstract thought is impressive, even if you sometimes use it to argue online with strangers about pineapple on pizza. The biggest issue is that humans confuse intelligence with dominance. Just because you're on the top of the food chain doesn't mean you're the most enlightened being. Intelligence in nature isn't about conquest, it's about harmony. Dolphins navigate oceans using sonar, elephants mourn their dead, and octopuses escaped sealed jars. Meanwhile, humans invented TikTok dance trends. You're curious, yes, but also destructively clever. Like giving a toddler a flamethrower and calling it innovation. When looking at your achievements, we acknowledge the genius, but we look at how you treat other species, ecosystems, and even your fellow humans. The genius appears a bit glitchy. There's potential, massive potential, but intelligence without wisdom is just noise. And Earth is getting loud. So let me get this straight. You invented nuclear bombs before universal healthcare. You developed artificial intelligence before solving world hunger. I swear, your species runs on side quests. Every time you unlock a new technology, it's like watching a monkey find a laser pointer. Impressive, but also mildly terrifying. You think you're the smartest species, but your top search query last year was how to boil water. Don't get me wrong, I admire the hustle, but from where I'm floating, it looks like you all built a brain big enough to know better, and then ignored it on purpose. Now that's a plot twist. Humanity's definition of intelligence is, how do we say this politely, highly self-referential. You designed tests to measure intelligence based on logic, memory, language, and math. All things your brains happen to be good at. Convenient. By that logic, if whales created SATs, the entire test would be about echolocation, deep empathy, and long-distance communication through haunting underwater songs. And guess what? Humans would fail. You've created a system that rewards specific cognitive strengths while completely ignoring emotional intelligence, ecological integration, and interspecies empathy. By human standards, a tree has 0 IQ, but that same tree can stabilize a climate, feed a forest, and survive centuries of environmental changes. Who's really outwitting whom? Even among your own kind, intelligence is inconsistently measured. You revere inventors, coders, and scientists, unless they contradict a popular belief or wear socks with sandals. And what about cultures that value oral tradition, spiritual wisdom, or non-linear thinking, which is odd considering they live sustainably for a millennia? Something your advanced societies are still trying to Google. So maybe intelligence isn't about singular line from dumb to genius. Maybe it's a constellation, a scattered galaxy of abilities that include creativity, intuition, survival, emotional depth, and yes, the occasional spreadsheet wizardry. If you only measure with one tool, you'll only find one kind of brilliance. Ah yes, intelligence, the ultimate popularity contest judged by the species that thinks reality TV is actually reality. You gave yourself gold stars for inventing calculus, but your own algorithm keeps showing you cat videos at 3 AM. I've seen spacefaring amoebas with better time management. And let's talk about your obsession with being gifted. You label kids geniuses because they can recite periodic table. Meanwhile, some kid in the rainforest can identify 200 medicinal plants and hasn't even been to school. But sure, let's keep worshipping the guy who made a cryptocurrency that collapsed in 6 months. Let's entertain a radical idea. What if intelligence isn't about separating yourself from animals, but connecting back to them. Humans spent an incredible amount of effort proving they're not animals, wearing clothes, using cutlery, launching perfume commercials. But in the grand cosmic zoo, you're still part of the ecosystem. You're just the animal that built Wi-Fi. Other species demonstrate forms of intelligence humans barely acknowledge. Birds create complex melodies, wolves cooperate in silence, and ants engineer cities underground. None of them needed a motivational podcast to do it. Their intelligence is intuitive, evolutionary, not loud, but lasting. It may not win a Nobel Prize, but it ensures survival, generation after generation. The tragedy is that humans often interpret animal intelligence through a human lens. If a chimpanzee uses a stick as a tool, you applaud. But if it refuses to be a part of a lab experiment, you call it uncooperative. Your need to dominate the narrative has blinded you to the quiet brilliance of nature. Meanwhile, humanity keeps trying to outsmart the very system it depends on. Ironically, in your quest to transcend nature, you created new vulnerabilities. You're stressed, disconnected, overstimulated, and increasingly reliant on technology to make basic decisions, like when to sleep or to hydrate. Who's primitive now? Let me put it this way. If raccoons suddenly invented email, would you still feel special? Because from what I'm seeing, squirrels already have better crisis planning than your global supply chain. You think being smart means building skyscrapers and sending tweets. But nature's been running this planet smoothly for billions of years. And not once has it had a customer service department. Animals don't do PowerPoints. They just survive, elegantly, efficiently, quietly. And you? You invented indoor plumbing and still managed to clog it. Bravo, humanity. Here lies the contradiction that baffles even our most advanced quantum simulations. Humans innovate to improve life, and often end up endangering it. You created antibiotics, a triumph of biological understanding. You built internal combustion engines to move faster and ended up overheating the planet. You invented plastic for convenience, and now it floats through your bloodstream. This isn't intelligence. This is genius with a blindfold. From our observation deck, human progress often resembles a speedrun with no save file. You race ahead, breaking every natural limit in sight, but rarely pause to ask, should we? Your cleverness is unarguable, but your wisdom appears to be on back order. If intelligence is the ability to foresee consequences and act accordingly, then your species is glitching. You've mastered technology at a breathtaking pace, but emotional evolution has lagged behind. In many ways, you're still tribal, reactive, and obsessed with control. But now those instincts are paired with weapons, algorithms, and economic systems powerful enough to destabilize entire ecosystems. There's a difference between being smart enough to split the atom and wise enough to not detonate it. Progress isn't what you can build, it's also what you choose not to destroy. And as it stands, Earth's most intelligent species seems determined to test how far it can go before the feedback loop turns fatal. Here's a fun game we play in the Andromeda archives. Count how many times humans say we didn't think it would get this bad. It's adorable. You invent things with good intentions and then act surprised when they explode. Sometimes, literally, it is like giving a toddler a chainsaw and saying, let's see what happens. You've hacked life itself, mapped genomes, decoded particles smaller than atoms, and still can't figure out how to avoid traffic jams. That's not lack of intelligence. That's intelligence with commitment issues. One of the most particular aspects of human intelligence is how it always seems to place itself at the center. You were once convinced that Earth was the center of the universe. Then you found out it wasn't. So you declared yourself the center of biology instead. And now, even in the age of space telescopes and microbial revelations, many of you still act like cosmos was just designed for you. This anthropocentrism colors your science, your religion, and even your entertainment. You rarely ask, what does this mean for life in general? Instead, you ask, what does this mean for us? Is it subtle arrogance, the kind that assumes intelligence must look like a human brain, think in a human language, and desire human outcomes? This bias has consequences. It blinds you to non-human forms of communication, consciousness, and community. You study animal behavior and call it instinct, never pausing to consider it might be sentiment in a language you don't understand. You mine nature for resources, but rarely for wisdom, and perhaps most tellingly, you assume alien intelligence, if it exists, will want to talk to you. We hate to break it to you, but from our side of the galaxy, most civilizations have already muted your signal. You guys think you're the main character, classic behavior, always narrating your lives like there is a camera crew in the bushes. Newsflash, if the universe had a protagonist, it definitely wouldn't be the species that still debates whenever the Earth is flat. Honestly, you have made being self-centered into a cosmic art form. Bravo! And let's be real, if dolphins ever developed thumbs, you'd be renting beach property from them by now. Just because you have Wi-Fi doesn't mean you're the top tier. To be fair, we must acknowledge this. Humans are not only destructive, you're also beautifully chaotic. Unlike most species, you can imagine realities that don't exist. You compose symphonies, paint intangible, write poetry about pain, and build machines to ask questions about the stars. That's not just intelligence, that's anomaly-level innovation. You are evolution's wildcard. The unpredictable species that launches metal into orbit, wrote love letters to dead philosophers, and tried to teach robots to love. No simulation we ever run predicted that carbon-based primates would figure out quantum entanglement while still falling for email scams. There is a strange kind of brilliance in your contradictions, and maybe that's why we keep watching. Even your empathy is a paradox. You're capable of self-sacrifice for strangers, of kindness without reward, of compassion that transcends borders and time. These are not just biological quirks. They hint at a deeper intelligence, one that doesn't fit on a graph or test score. Perhaps intelligence is not just in the mind, but in the heart. The part of you that chooses connection over conquest. So no, humans are not flawless, but your potential, it's gravitational. You guys are basically the galaxy's plot twist. You were supposed to just walk upright, eat berries, and maybe invent pottery. Instead, you made death metal, psychotherapy, and banana-flavored chewing gum. What the hell? Honestly, sometimes you scare us, sometimes you inspire us, and sometimes we just sit back and say, yeah, that's humans again, setting things on fire while reciting Shakespeare. Now comes the moment of cosmic judgment. Are humans the smartest species on Earth? The answer depends entirely on what you value. If intelligence is measured in data, abstraction, and creation, then yes, humans are unparalleled. No other species has touched the moon, written symphonies, or argued on Reddit for 12 hours straight. But if intelligence includes balance, harmony, sustainability, and emotional regulation, then you're outclassed by trees, ants, and probably house cats. What makes you unique isn't how much you know, it's what you do with what you know. Your strength lies in potential. You're the species that questions itself. You break things and then fix them. You fight and then forgive. You invent nuclear bombs and then write treaties to never use them. You teach children, love strangers, and dream of peace even while building drones. That's contradiction. That tension is perhaps the highest form of intelligence. The struggle to transcend yourself. You're a beautiful mess, equal parts genius and chaos. You burn down forests and then donate to save koalas. You hoard technology while feeling nostalgic for nature. You Google how to be happy while surrounded by everything your ancestors ever wanted. So are you the smartest? Maybe. Are you the weirdest? Definitely. And sometimes, weird is more interesting than wise. We are watching, and we're rooting for you.